With version 18, the purchasing, receiving, and return pick lists all fill your screen when you open them, just as they do on the retail side of Booklog. Your Maintain Courses and Adoptions window now also fills the screen when you open it. If you change the size of that window, its size won't change when you open other windows. If you ever had issues keeping the size of this window consistent while you worked in other parts of Booklog, version 18 resolves those issues. You will also see new sort functionality in this window. Booklog now makes a note of which items you adopted first, and you can sort your adopted items by the order in which you adopted them. You can sort them oldest to newest, or newest to oldest. Version 18 allows you more control over textbook refunds. On the retail side of Booklog, you'll find new options for textbook refunds in your cash register settings. If you choose Always Prompt, Booklog will always ask the cashier if they want to return any new textbooks they are refunding to new or used. If the cashier returns it as used, they have the option of returning it at the used price instead of the new price the student paid for it initially. You can set a default selection for your cashiers by checking the Use Used Pricing when returning item as used box in your cash register settings. Choosing the Always Prompt except for New Only setting will give you the same options, except on books checked as New Only on the text management side of Booklog. If the cashier returns the book as used, the book's used quantity on hand will increase. Any time the cashier opts to return a book as new, then the new quantity on hand for that book will increase. If you would like any refunds on new textbooks to be added automatically to your new quantities on hand for those books, and refunds on any used textbooks to be added automatically to their used quantities on hand, then select the Always Return to Scan setting. On the other hand, if you would prefer that any textbook be automatically returned as a used book, then choose the Always Return to Used setting. Version 18 changes a few things about the item maintenance window and your item properties. After upgrading, you'll see new columns showing your last received dates for new and used copies of your items. In Item Properties, you'll see the same Adjustments tab that shows for each item on the retail side of Booklog. This tab reflects each change you or your staff made to an item, whether that change came from receiving, physical inventory, returns, write-offs, or manual changes to quantity on hand. You'll also see price changes in this tab. The only changes that aren't reflected come from sales. If you use the Staff Notes tab on the retail side of Booklog, then you'll see the information you enter for the new copy of your textbook on the text management side as well. You can review any internal comments your staff have made about new copies of the item here. The new upgrade will give you a few shortcuts in the ordering process that you may find valuable. If you use Booklog's Special Orders function to reserve textbooks for students, you can now exclude those reserved books from your Open to Buy by checking the Exclude from Open to Buy checkbox for those orders whose quantities you don't want to contribute to your Open to Buy quantities. When you're auto-creating purchase orders based on your Open to Buy and you check Include Special Orders, Booklog will put any special ordered copies of your textbooks on separate lines to show that they are meant for specific customers and not to fulfill your Open to Buy. Another change you'll see in the Auto Create POs window is the option to use any vendor's default transmission method when creating and sending out your POs. When you select Vendor's Default Transmission Method, Booklog will generate orders for every vendor based on the order method you specify here. But you can also use those settings to group your orders together. In other words, if you would like to generate POs only for the vendors you work with through EDI, Nebraska, MBS, Ingram, or any PubNet vendors, then you would select EDI as your transmit method, and Booklog would only create POs to those vendors. Booklog won't generate any orders for vendors that don't have an order method selected. Another new change involving vendors is that now you can add shipping messages that will always appear on POs to that vendor. If you use EDI, then you know the value of want listing, and you may know the value of the Receiving worksheet. The Receiving worksheet prints a detailed list of the items on an order and what courses they belong to. In version 18, Booklog will print this worksheet by default when you're entering your want list confirmations. If you would prefer not to print this worksheet, you can uncheck this setting. You'll see a new change in another pick list as well. When you bring up Returns on the text management side of Booklog in version 18, you'll see a column for Return Permission. If the vendor associated with each return requires permission to make returns, you'll see that reflected here. If you would like to change how prominently some prices display on your shelf tags, version 18 allows you to print some prices in a bold font and others in a regular font. When you go to your shelf tag defaults under the Adoptions menu, you can choose which prices to make bold on your shelf tags so that they are more visible to students or coworkers. As with any update, you should be sure to review your security settings after you upgrade to be sure that you and your employees have access to any new functions that might be included in the new version. In version 18, you'll also find a new security setting for a pre-existing function. In the permissions for Utilities in the Text Management module, you'll see the ability to allow access to the Global Changes window on the text management side of the system.